All right, Rob, I told you I'd get to you. So today's the day. Rob over at Northern Revolutions has started a contest, and actually it's been going for a little bit, and I kind of put it off because a lot of these things are somewhat emotional to me. But before we start, he wanted us to do a shout out on some people on some channels that aren't getting the love, and it's like I can't find anybody who's got less subscribers than I do. So anyway, I like Doyle's Basement. I think he's great, and he's funny, and he's a big bear, and he works in a record shop, so he's always got good stuff to talk about. Also, CGC Vinyl Guy. Christian over there has always got some great, interesting things going on with him. So, check those guys out. I'll put their address in the description below. All right. So when I was a kid, about 7 or 8, is when I really started getting into music. I was more of an athlete, and I really started playing instruments, and that's what got me started. Actually, I started out this morning while I was watching a thread that Rick Beato had put up. And if you don't know who Rick Beato is, you should check him out. He's got almost 3 million subscribers, and there's a reason for that. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of music. But he was talking about how today Jimi Hendrix wouldn't be famous. And for me, everybody that you're going to see here on my records is very famous, and all of these musicians were very well known and famous, but now, there's no musicianship anymore. I don't get it. I don't understand what that problem is. Put in the description or in the comments, what you think it is, because I'm not sure. I don't know if it's games and I don't know if it's television or movies or just inundation. But these children haven't learned instruments, and everybody I knew growing up all played instruments. We all played instruments. I played 4 different instruments in band, and I also was learning bass on my own back when I was in my early teens. So so anyway, that's just a little beginning rant for me. But like I said, when I was about 7 or 8, that's when I started really getting into music. And I don't know if you guys remember these the green stamps, but your mom would get green stamps, a certain amount of them for it's kind of like a gimmick for the grocery store, and she'd give them to me, and I'd put them in the books, and I got enough to get an portable 8-track player that had these big D batteries in it, and my first album that I got, first 8-track that I ever got, was the Carpenters, and I learned about them from my cousin, and I really loved their harmonies and the music itself. You see, one of the things that makes me strange is that I was raised by opera singers. My mom and dad met in college singing opera. So that's the first stuff that I really was listening to. My dad was singing and being an opera star. So that's pretty much how my music appreciation started. Anyway, so going back, my first album that I ever bought with my money was this one, and I was with my grandmother. I remember right where it was, in Bartow, Florida, and this is Three Dog Night, and they were huge stars back then, and this is when everybody was like into the Beatles and all that stuff, but this is harder, more what do I say, just more rock-ish than Beatles ever were. So anyway, so then I've got another one that I went probably a year or so after that. I went to summer camp, and our counselor Joe had just gotten this album here, and I'm sure Rob's happy about that. But this, I mean, I'd never heard their stuff, and it was great. I really liked it, but he played it ad nauseum. You know, he played just constantly. It was running all the time. So anyway, that's my introduction to the Beatles. My early teens, when I started getting in, my early teens, probably I want to say about 12 years old or so, I got into this group. And my parents really hated this, and I had posters all over my walls. And it was just a new kind of music to me. But I mean, it was going into the memory bank. All the stuff that I'm a hodgepodge of all these different genres of music. And at the same time, you know, my dad was always doing opera and singing, and always had a big hi-fi and all this kind of stuff. So, but you know, every couple of months he would get you know, as a family together, and sometimes we'd bring girlfriends and stuff like that, but we'd go to see opera. And if you haven't been to opera, you can't cut it down and all this kind of stuff. But this is Turandot by Puccini. And my dad used to sing this all the time. And I've seen Madame Butterfly and it's just so many different operas that I guess it got kind of in my head, the Italian language, because when I started as a fashion photographer, one of the first things I had to do is go over to Europe and conquer it before I could actually conquer the world, this country here. And to get kind of street cred, you had to go to Europe and shoot for the magazines there. And my first place I went was Madrid, and then I went to England, and then I hopped back over to Italy. And Italy I fell in love with. And for the next 3 or 4 years, I was learning Italian through just hearing it. And I'd walk around making all my Italian friends sick, saying "Come si dice questo," which means "What does that mean?" And I was asking about everything. So anyway, I really had, you know, a lot of musical tastes that were going on with me, and I was, like I said, I was playing instruments and stuff like this, and I was actually learning bass on an upright bass. But then I learned about this guy, and he's probably one of my favorite artists of all time. I have everything he's ever done, and that's a white label promo, by the way. But this album is incredible. And I was just starting to get into girls and all this kind of stuff, and listening to him talk about them, and how he'd croon. I mean, you guys should like him because a lot of you guys are Canadians, and he's from Canada. But he came over, and he's got a great story about how he ran through the gates to meet Herb Alpert, and he's the A in A&M Records, and but. Anyway, that's for a different video. I'll go through that. But Gino Vanelli he's one of my favorites, and like I said, I mean, I have everything he's ever done, and he's still touring right now at 70 years old, and it's incredible. I've seen him in concert 3 times, so he's amazing. He's the real deal, and these guys really make music. The musicianship on these albums is shocking. Especially when you listen to all the fake music that's out there now on the radio waves. So I was really trying to understand a lot of the music theory that was going on with Gino Vanelli, but then of course, I had another thing that came into my life, which was this group. And I'd never heard anything like this. This Ronnie Montrose put this group together called Montrose. And actually this right there is Sammy Hagar. And to show you, this is an amazing album. And if you don't have this in your album, I mean, you're in your collection, you need to get this, because this is incredible. He's actually the first Eddie Van Halen, I think. I mean, I think people compare the two. But he's actually, that's why I think that they thought of Sammy Hagar to go into Van Halen because he had already done it with a super guitarist. And actually, Ronnie Montrose, he had come from Edgar Winter Group, and he was the one who did all the guitar work on the song Frankenstein. So anyway, so I'm moving up into mid high school, and so I I got in with popular culture and all this kind of stuff, and we were all doing all kinds of stuff. Well, we were listening to a lot of jazz. I mean, a lot of jazz, and you'll see that in a second. But we also loved redneck stuff because I'm from redneck Florida, and we loved this group. And actually, I used to have a pair of Klipsch Heresies that I put in the back of my car, and we'd go to the beach, to Daytona Beach, and I'd pull them out and put them on the back of my car, not even thinking about the ohms difference, and just blasting Molly Hatchet and Leonard Skinner and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. But then I started getting really serious, and I started getting all my friends who were also musicians into jazz in a heavier fashion, and this is the one that really changed everything for me. This jazz fusion album, if you don't have it, you need to get it. This is a half-speed mastered. It sounds so amazing, and this is where I found a guy named Jaco Pastorius, and I was just stunned of what he was doing and the sounds that he could make with a bass guitar. And especially because I was using an upright, and I wish I had learned and not known about like Ron Carter and people like that who played upright a lot. But anyway, he's the reason. Jaco Pastorius is the reason why I really got so heavy into jazz, and especially into my bass. And I still play bass today, and I still am stunned at what he can do with the bass. I'm not even close. I'm not even in the same ballpark. So anyway, I went from that jazz, and I found some other stuff too. And this is Latin jazz, and Latin jazz is pretty special. It's pretty amazing. And I found this album here. And this is a group called Caldera. And Caldera actually had several amazing albums. And this album was just so amazing to me when I heard it. I couldn't believe it. And the musicianship on this is amazing. And they did another, they've done several albums, but here's another one. And they always have these great cover art. But anyway, I think that pretty much covers most of my adolescence going into college. So I hope that's what you're looking for, Rob. I think this is Rob's got a great channel. I'm going to link him in the credits down here, and I hope everybody's had a great Memorial Day, and we'll talk to you soon.